Hey book readers, just in time for the new school year, we're heading back to the classroom for an academic Would You Rather, featuring 4 literary showdowns. Let's find out which books I read in high school I'd rather reread today. First, in the gifted and talented division, there's a battle between A Prayer for Owen Meanie and The Giver. First, I'll talk about The Giver. Jonas, the main character, lives in a utopian world. When he turns 12, he's assigned the role of Receiver of Memory and is tasked with keeping all past memories for his community. Major props to The Giver for an ambiguous ending that drives people crazy. However, I did read all 4 books in the series, so the series does actually resolve any unanswered questions the first book leaves up in the air. Second, we're talking about A Prayer for Owen Meanie. Owen Meanie is one of my favorite literary characters of all time. A tiny boy with a squeaky voice, he deals with some pretty heavy stuff, namely killing his best friend's mother by accident and feeling called by God to do something important. Digging into themes like friendship, patriotism, and faith, it has a depth to it that The Giver just doesn't. So A Prayer for Owen Meanie feels more grown up. Even the characters grow up throughout the novel. The Giver, on the other hand, oozes YA, so I'm going with the non-oozing book. I'd rather reread A Prayer for Owen Meanie. Next up is the Boys Will Be Boys division, where Lord of the Flies is going up against Beowulf in Which Would I Rather Reread? Talking about Lord of the Flies, we've got to talk about Jack, Ralph, Piggy, the Conch, school-age boys surviving on an island, cobbling together a basic society, working together, well, at least for a little while, and then that troublesome old thing known as human nature rears its ugly head. Kids are the worst. I probably read Lord of the Flies 10 times since I was first forced to read it in middle school, so it's going to be hard for me to pick against it. I mean, this book is most likely the reason I enjoy watching reality TV shows about survival in the wilderness. And then there's Beowulf. Some people may not consider a poem to be the most manly thing, but Beowulf dispels that myth by being called an Anglo-Saxon epic poem. In high school, I devoured this one. I just couldn't put it down, which was a rare thing at the time since I usually hated any assigned reading we had for English class. Here's a quick recap of the story in case you forgot. The heroic Beowulf helps a king kill a couple monsters, becomes a king himself, slays some dragons, and eventually dies in battle. As for the battle between Beowulf and Lord of the Flies, my champion is Lord of the Flies. It's close, but if I'm going to reread one of these two, I'd prefer it not be the one in Old English. In the category of modern classic versus classic classic, would I rather reread To Kill a Mockingbird or The Scarlet Letter? It's probably sacrilegious to say this, but I didn't like To Kill a Mockingbird the one and only time I read it. Now, in my defense, I was 13 and didn't want to read much of anything anyway. However, I did enjoy watching the Gregory Peck movie in class after we finished the book. Of course, this is skewed because, watching a movie at school, does it get any better than that? And then there's The Scarlet Letter. Here's the ultra-short summary. People in pilgrim hats turn a cold shoulder on a woman because she got on Pilgrim Tinder and had a kid. I would rather reread To Kill a Mockingbird because, 1, I more recently satisfied my hunger for rereading The Scarlet Letter by reading a graphic novel version of it, and 2, To Kill a Mockingbird is my mom's favorite book, so I gotta do right by her. In the short and sweet division, we have The Old Man and the Sea going up against The Pearl. I'm not much of a fisherman, and The Old Man and the Sea might be to blame. Of course, my lack of patience could also play a part. It's a story of an old Cuban fisherman who tries to reel in a giant fish over the course of 2 days. Although that might sound like a dull, prolonged experience, this book is anything but slow and boring. There's plenty of action and everything that Santiago does to try and land the whopper. And then there's The Pearl, which is about a poor pearl diver who finds a massive, perfect pearl, instantly changing his life because of this mind-blowing windfall. It digs into themes of wealth, poverty, greed, and family. This may seem like an easy way out, but since I reread The Pearl more recently, I'd rather reread The Old Man and the Sea. Plus, Hemingway's novella is less depressing than Steinbeck's, and I likes the good feels. There you have it, the 4 books from high school English class that I'd rather reread. Remember to like and subscribe. Happy reading.